around you. That's nothing to do with lineage, you know?
Yeah, the same way, we may have gripes from the Caribbeans or Africa. We may have gripes with Black America. I have no problem with that. We all gonna have problems,
Right.
subtle problems with each other. I just don't think you should make us the boogeyman of
You're not
all the problems.
have a
Chief,
problem.
I am. I see you been very vocal about Black Americans. Why you say F Black Americans, TN effing sellout ninjas? Maybe you can come on and claim your displacement. I just feel like what you're saying is totally off code, and this could be a perfect example of off code Aboriginal / FBAs. We got to be a little more on code and not be wrapped up with our emotions based off a semantical term that we may or may not agree with.
With Africans or Caribbeans, I don't, because we're like, you niggas hit us. No, I don't. I plan on going to Africa pretty soon. I ain't been out there in a minute. I plan on going back out there. I know I got some lovely friends out there in Africa. We were about to go to Jamaica last week. I think it was the weather was a little janky or whatever. But yeah. I still rock with the Caribbean. I still rock with Africa. I still rock with my brothers and sisters in the UK. I ain't got a problem with that. That's why we differentiate between our riders globally and the tethers who usually come over here with the bullshit. That's why we difference.
I mean, to say that the people that you built up your whole that supported you now are the tethers, from the Hidden Colors and all the documentaries you did. You built up your base based on Africans and the Caribbeans, and now they tethers.
Well, you told 3 lies for one right there. It's 3 lies mixed in one.
What was the lie?
Number one, I didn't build up nothing based on African and Caribbeans. I built on things based on my interpretation of history globally, it's including here. Second, all African and Caribbeans are not tethers. Why do you say that? You're not a tether because you're an African and a Caribbean. What makes you say something like that?
I mean, it seems like if you disagree with your rhetoric, you're automatically a tether, and you kind of use it interchangeably, African or Black immigrants or Caribbean and tether.
Because here's the thing. When y'all come over here, for some reason, a lot of the liars come over here. Y'all be lying. And because you guys are used to your own lies, you don't think you're doing anything wrong. That's tethering right there. When the minute y'all come around us lying and all that shit and being deceptive, tether right there.
So what about the lies you tell, Tariq?
I'm not a tether, sir, and I don't tell lies. What lies have I told?
I mean, you're pushing pseudo history that Black people been in America before Columbus. I seen the other day you say you don't support African business, yet you come to New York and you go to an African restaurant and eat jollof rice. So that alone, you lied about that. You say you don't support African business and you in the African restaurant eating jollof rice in New York. So that I understand that.
So wait. Which slide do I got to cover first?
What do we just say? Let me run that back. That's a lot to take in. Shout out to everybody that's in the building too, man. We got 128 in here listening to us right now. Shout out to everybody that is in the building. It's your brother, Big Aboriginal Power. And y'all already know the vibes, man. Make sure y'all come in, hit that like button, thumb up the video, support the channel. You know what I mean? We in here cooking. If you cooking, we booking. You feel me? Salute to everybody that's up in here. Let's get right back into it, though. You see what I'm saying? Let's go. Hold on.
The minute y'all come around us lying and all that shit and being deceptive, tether right there.
So what about the lies you tell, Tariq?
I'm not a tether, sir, and I don't tell lies. What lies have I told?
I mean, you're pushing pseudo history that Black people been in America before Columbus. I seen the other day you say you don't support African business, yet you come to New York and you go to an African restaurant and eat jollof rice. So that alone, you lied about that. You say you don't support African business and you in the African restaurant eating jollof rice in New York. So that
Tariq never said he didn't support African businesses. I don't think he ever said that.
You say you don't.
Black Americans and Aboriginal Americans took it upon ourselves because we have no leader, and we collectively sometimes make these decisions where we're not going to shop with African tether businesses or any tether business for that matter.
Or support African business. Yet you come to New York and you go to an African restaurant and eat jollof rice. So that alone, you lied about that. You say you don't support African business, and you in the African restaurant eating jollof rice in New York. So that I understand that.
So wait. So wait. Which slide do I got to cover first? Yeah. That's why you got to slow down. I got to cover each slide.
Okay, go ahead.
What was the first one? Because y'all lie so much, I forgot the first slide. First one.
You're pushing pseudo history that black people have been in America prior to Columbus.
Okay,
with no archaeological evidence to back that claim.
Got it. I'll get on that last. But as far as the jollof, now what about it? I ate jollof. My wife ordered some jollof in New York. We ate it in the room. We didn't eat at a restaurant. We ate it in the hotel.
Okay, it seemed like you was in a restaurant, but you said I was listening to one of your Twitter spaces. You said, "Well, I don't support African businesses." And I'm like, "That's funny. You came to New York and you was eating jollof rice."
But
I don't think you got that from a Black American restaurant.
Well, out here in LA, I don't really go to. There's really not really African businesses out here, so that's what I was saying. I wasn't saying that to disparage any of the African businesses, and shout out to the African businesses, but we don't really have them out here in LA. So when people asking me, "Are you going to boycott?" No, because I don't really go to any. So that wasn't to disparage. If you had a good African business and it was thorough, I would go. Like down in Houston, there was a brother at the mall. He had like an African herb shop. I went there, great brother. I forgot what his name had, great products. So I support. I'm not saying I wouldn't support. I just out here in LA, I just don't go because we don't have any like that. That wasn't to disparage. And if there's some good food that some Africans or Caribbeans make, I rock with it.
Oh, so you do support African business? That's
I
good.
do. I do. Yeah, I don't not support them. I know some, like in Atlanta, I know some African business owners. Like I said, down in Texas, I know some. You just don't have too many out. There's none out here in LA. I don't have a problem with them. So I never said that. I'm cool with Africans. That's what I'm saying. I'm cool with Africans. Now, as far as the Black presence in America before Columbus, do you really think Black people are all over the goddamn planet?
When you say Black, are you talking about African people, or are you talking about people that
No.
develop haplogroups outside of Africa that have dark skin?
Okay. When you see a Samoan, you know what a Samoan looks like?
Yeah.
Okay. If a Samoan is over here with that afro, what do you think they would be classified as?
Pacific Islander.
Not really. Not when you first see them.
I mean, you're doing lookership.
Yeah, that's what people do. They do observation. They like to call it lookership when they try to downgrade it, but it's really called observation. And when you was to see one of these people, you would consider them a Black person, quote unquote, today. Just like if you was to take Lucia woman, right, 12,000-year-old bones found in America, put her in North America today, she will be considered a Black woman or FBA Aboriginal woman. So they play these little semantics and call it lookership, but in science, they call it observation. Now, the only way you can observe something unless you use your eyes to look and see for yourself. They call it lookership, but in science, family, they call it observation. This is what they're not going to tell y'all.
Classified as
Pacific Islander.
Not really. Not when you first see them.
I mean, you're doing lookership. I don't think in 2025 you should be doing lookership.
Yeah, that's how it works. That's how it works, sir.
So, a person from the Pacific Island, you would consider them Black?
If they come over here, they would be considered Black by first glance, because that's how you see people. You judge them by how they look.
Do you know what Black means in the defined definition of the USA or the Census Bureau? What Black means?
It means us. It means foundation Black Americans.
Well, I could read you the defined definition. Anybody with descended from any of the racial groups from Africa. So I don't think the Pacific Islands people descend from anybody from Africa, unless you got some archaeologists or some anthropologists that could prove different.
Uh-huh.
Like,
What's the Spanish word for black?
you said what?
What's the Spanish word for black?
Negro.
How come in the Pacific Island and in Asia, a lot of the Aboriginals were labeled negritos by the Europeans?
I mean, you're talking about 15th century
Ah,
that definition.
yeah. They called them negritos. They called everybody black, dude. They were calling them negritos, Moorish, swarthy, black. A lot of the Native Americans. Go get a book by Jack Forbes called Africans and Native Americans. Over here, when the Europeans came, they kept referring to many of the natives here as Negroes. They kept referring to them as that.
Yeah, but we're in 2025. Like we have to go with updated scholarship and available
Hmm.
available research. I
Right.
don't think any serious scholar would consider no Native Americans as black or Negro.
Yeah. Well, why wouldn't they?
I mean, because that's pseudo science. We got their haplogroups, we got their genealogy, we know where these people, they SMP, so we know where these people descend from.
You know who Walter Plecker was? Slow down. You know who Walter Plecker was?
Yes, the races that categorize Native American try to categorize Native Americans. So
As
Right. That's exactly what he did. He mislabeled them, taking and stripping away their nationality, making it two classification of ethnic national classifications. Pretty much stripping away, disbanding, and embracing the nationality of the indigenous peoples here. Now, another sidebar about Walter Plecker is that he was very good friends and acquaintance with the Pan-Africans Grand Master Teacher Marcus Garvey. As a matter of fact, it is alleged that Walter Plecker helped bond Marcus Garvey out of jail when he was first charged and took to jail for fraud. They said that Walter Plecker actually bonded him out, family. Okay, so this is the connection that we're talking about.
was
yes, the races that categorize Native American try to categorize Native Americans. So
as
I guess Negro or something like that. But that's only in one state though. That wasn't the general
oh,
USA.
well, dude, that policy. He was just the one who got caught. It was another woman, white woman in New Orleans, doing the same thing. Named Naomi Drake. Look her up, Naomi Drake. She was doing the same thing in New Orleans. They would reclassify many Native Americans as Negroes. How were they able to do that?
To read, but you're talking about 18th, 17th century, where we're in 2025. Like I heard you
Oh,
talk about the Olmecs as
oh,
black.
oh, no. Plecker was doing this up until the damn 1960s. They were doing, Walter Plecker was doing this up until the 1960s. That Loving versus the state of Virginia was based on that. That Mildred Loving, which they did a movie about, this quote, black woman who married a white man. In reality, she's Native American. She was reclassified as Negro.
Right, they did a whole show about it. It's on Netflix.
Loving, which they did a movie about, versus the state of Virginia was based on that. That Mildred Loving, which they did a movie about, this quote, black woman who married a white man. In reality, she's Native American. She was reclassified as Negro. She's a Native American, but she's reclassified as Negro. That was kind of part of the controversy.
Right. Then you got my sister in the chat, Chickahominy Roots, whose family was misclassified as Negro and who was actually Aboriginal Indigenous. And after being misclassified as Negro, they was forced off of their land. Recently just won a court case, winning that and getting full immunity back and their land back. And then you got the Jordan Thomasina case, right, where it shows how these people was wrongfully done and they were the indigenous peoples of the land and misclassified. You also got the Cherokee Indians new constitution from the internal I forget what it said, internal something. But they dropped a whole this brief acknowledging the indigenous peoples of America and how they was misclassified. You also got recently the Muskogee Creek Indians winning their court case for being misclassified and then shunned away from their indigenous heritage and rights. Okay, so yeah, they've been doing the indigenous peoples wrong since the beginning. Only recently, as in 2025, we're starting to see ramifications and some type of remedy done in court. So this opens the door for a lot of the indigenous people that are indigenous and aboriginal and have connections to their tribe that was falsely and fraudulently mislabeled due to gentrification and other legal statuses. See, this is the way they usurped you and put you in their system. This is how you became a POW, quote unquote, a United States citizen.
This is very, very recent, sir. With respect, just with respect.
Let me ask you. So, what is the haplogroups of majority of Black Americans?
Listen,
in America,
phenotype precedes paperwork. Genetics match what the eyes can clearly see. You understand? If skeletal remains, sculptures, murals, if they depict broad noses, full lips, afro hair, and all of that, that's going to be classified. Just like
what Native Americans have afros, Tariq? Can you give me a tribe or something?
Had the
you talking about? See, they like using the term Native American. I know Tariq ain't gonna pick up on that, but that's a little musty tether tactic.
And all of that, that's going to be classified. Just like
what Native Americans have afros, Tariq? Can you give me a tribe or something?
We had the Shinnecock who had afros, the Washita had afros, Yamasee had afros. You had a lot of them. I was arguing with Grok the other day about a Native American who was black as hell with an afro down in the southern tip of South America. And Grok kept trying to talk around the damn afro. Well, it was coily. Well, his hair is textured. It was going out of its way to not say afro.
So was this a drawing or an actual picture, Tariq?
It was two things. It was one photograph from the 1860s of a clearly black man who was actually a Native American, and then Grok tried to explain. And then I went back further into the same group, the same area. There was a painting that somebody else made in the 18th century, and he was black as hell with an afro. So Grok was trying to, well, he looked like that, but he's an Asian, and probably it did a lot of explaining. And this haplogroups reflect migration, all right, not race. Haplogroup.
Yeah. So what's the majority of Black Americans haplogroup?
It's different ones. Haplogroup, it tracks genetic lineage, not racial classifications. See, people could have a haplogroup associated with a certain region, but they might not. They can still phenotypically look black due to thousands of years of isolated evolution. You understand? A haplogroup label that was a naming system. That's a modern framework within itself. In the 1800s, you didn't have haplogroups. Nobody's talking about no damn haplogroups. They're like, hey, that's a Negro. That was the damn haplogroup. A Negro right there, guys. That's a Negro. He's a curly-haired Afro-having Negro.
So how many haplogroups do Black Americans display?
It's whatever. Yeah, that's kind of irrelevant because haplogroup, that's like a modern framework shaped by academics.
But how is irrelevant? You're living in a first world country where science is put forward at on
group those labels misclassify Black populations all the time. It misclassifies the Black presence in the Americas. They play that haplogroup game with the Olmecs. You can clearly see that the Olmecs are black as damn hell with big ass lips and froze, but they start talking about some damn haplogroup. Don't matter what the haplogroup is. That's a Negro I'm looking at. Understand?
So you don't care about science. You're just going off straight lookership on what you see, and whatever you could decide in your brain. That's exactly what it is, right?
Because yeah, if somebody robs a store, they're not going to say, well, do you know what the haplogroup was? No.
I mean, they might do genetic tests, you know, fingerprints analysis to see, you know, if this to see if the DNA matches. I mean,
No,
right or wrong, right?
no, they're going to do surveillance to know.
Yeah, so surveillance lead back to science, though. They're gonna find DNA prints, you know,
Does it?
things like that.
No, it doesn't. You don't need signs if a Negro with a shag and a beard robbed a store. You don't need signs for that. You just say a Negro with a shag and a beard robbed the store.
So if you had a
Or
if you had a baby you was unsure of, you're gonna take a DNA test, right?
go down. Just like white people, they try to play, well, little Jews are not white and that Arab is not white. No, no, no. If somebody white robs a store, you're not going to say, well, is he a Jew? He looked like a Jew. I saw a Jew running, you know, I saw a white man running down the street with a meth pipe. You know, that's how you're going to describe it. You're not going to get into haplogroups, religions, none of that. The first notion is to judge based on what the eyes can see. You understand? Now, when
So
to a cultural thing, then we can get into lineage, things like that. But the
Yeah, they have
haplogroup,
like observing something is not right, like that's wrong. They have whole legal laws that's based off of looking. It's called plain view doctrine. It is anyone can actively use plain view doctrine as something that you can observe and make account of if need be. It is considered credible. Okay, let's go.
that's irrelevant as hell. That as far as everyday interactions, that's irrelevant. That doesn't have any bearing on everyday interactions. Nobody
so
says, "Hey man, what's your haplogroup?" My haplogroup is